Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. I was at the thrift store today and I found something very interesting. I'll show you what it is. Here it is. It is I guess a set of stairs. And I thought maybe that would be nice for a miniature bonsai display. So I've set it up, sort of a trial, and I really like it. I think it shows the trees off really nicely. I'm not a fan of the miniature bonsai displays that have one shelf above the other. To me, it feels like the lower ones are in the dark. So I like this stepped idea. It kind of gives light to all the trees. And it's really fun. You can play around with the arrangement of them. You can put stands under the trees. This one I have a little stone underneath it. Yeah, so it's really fun kind of playing around with your trees, organizing them into something that looks quite nice. Now this set of stairs does need refinishing. You can see it's kind of, the varnish is quite worn off. It's a very lightweight wood. I think it's pine, I believe. So there's a look at the side of it. But yeah, I was really pleased. It's a possible display for small bonsai that I think looks good. It maybe looks a little bit like a vendor's display, you know, having the trees on display like this, but I think it's a good way to showcase the trees. I like it better than the traditional Japanese stands. Like I said, it always looks like the bottom ones are in the dark and they're kind of caged in. This gives light to all the trees, and I think it's, in my opinion, it's a better way to display small bonsai. I'm not sure exactly what would be the best color to finish this stand in, whether dark or just refinishing it with a nice varnish, a reddish varnish, bringing out the wood grain. I think, you know, simplicity is always the best, so I think maybe a darker stain that kind of hides the wood grain, so these stairs are very plain and simple, and it kind of highlights the trees. I think the darker stain would also bring out the colors of the pots and, you know, the leaves of the trees. So when you look in, the green is set with a dark background. But yeah, I was very pleased to get that. I think it was $6.99. Yeah. So that's a possible mini bonsai display for a future show. Today I'm moving from my smallest trees to my largest tree, the European Buckthorn. It needs pruning. Way down here I have my European Buckthorn. And I hope I'm feeling energetic today to move it because it's very, very heavy. It's a big tree in a big pot, and the pot is cement. So here it is here. You can see how overgrown it is. But it looks good. It looks good and healthy. It's grown well. It did have aphids on it, and so some of the leaves are a bit shriveled up. But it's looking good. I think it's ready for a pruning. I'm a little scared to prune this tree because they die back. You can see there's a branch in here that's died back. There's some new branches down lower that I've done some rough pruning on, and they seem to be staying alive. But yeah, these trees are maybe a little unpredictable. But you know, if I don't prune it, it never becomes a bonsai, does it? It just becomes a tree. So I'm going to move it over to the bench and begin pruning the European Buckthorn. I have got the tree on the bench. It's not too heavy. It's better than I thought. So I've picked the front of it as over here. So I'll rotate it around and maybe I'll just, you know, reevaluate it, see if there's a better front for the tree. The current front isn't so good. It's the major two branches up top here are kind of parallel to the viewer, and it's better over this side because the trunk line, the major trunk line, comes forward to you. So let me rotate it around. All right, let's rotate it around. So here's the front I've marked. Now, the problem with this front is this branch grows across the front of the tree. But this front does have a lot of good features. It shows some of the deadwood on the trunk, both here and up higher. Yeah. Here's a look at that branch. So if I come around this side, you can see half the branch is deadwood and all the growth is on the side that crosses the trunk line. So I have to decide how important is that branch, that lower branch there. So let me rotate it back to the front where I could keep this branch and have another look at it. Here's the front that allows me to keep that branch, but the trunk line is not as good. It's not as interesting. This is definitely the better trunk line over here. And I think in this case, the trunk line is more important than that branch. If I remove that branch, I know it'll probably never grow another branch in that area. Maybe, you know, here's a young one that has come out. So it's not out of the realm of possibility, but I think in this case, I've got to go for the trunk line. I think that's the most important feature of this tree, is that beautiful old trunk and the deadwood on it. So there's kind of a close-up of the deadwood. Yeah, I think it's important to show that. I think it really adds age to the tree. So I think I will work on the tree with kind of this view as the front. I've got my bigger tools out today, my scissors, my branch splitters, my bypass pruners, a saw, my gin pliers, and my ratcheting pruners. So I think those tools should do the job. I'm going to start by removing all the branches that cross the trunk line, see how it looks, and if I have to take it back just to a broken branch stub, I will. All right, here I go. I'm going to begin the branch pruning now. So, cutting off the big branches first. There's one. Tough wood on these trees. I'll prune off the dead bits here. Okay, let's have a look from the front now. Here's a look at the tree now with that front branch reduced. It certainly shows the trunk line, and the trunk line's quite nice from this view. It doesn't really bother me crossing the trunk out front like that. I think I'm going to leave it on, see what happens, and I can always prune it off later if it's really bothering me. But for the moment now, it doesn't bother me. You can see the trunk clearly. So I'll leave it on and start working on maybe that other back branch now. Okay, so I'll reduce this back. There's dead parts of it here. I'll just prune that back shorter. Keeping the dead branch on. And then I've got this vertical one. I pruned it off here. I'll take the one off on the inside here, like that. I'll reduce this part to a living branch, so taking the stub off the top. And actually, I've got one up top here. I think I'll reduce it right back to this one. like that. And then I'll reduce this back to some foliage down here. Tough wood. Really shortening that branch. I've got some dead branches here I can cut back. Okay, so that's got this branch pruned up. There's another little bit of it down here. I'll just trim the tip off and leave that here. Okay, so let's go back to the front view now. Here's what it looks like now. So next I have a back branch back here, and then it'll be time to start on the canopy. So I'll get that back branch pruned up. Okay, I've left it a little long. I could reduce it more. There's some leaves back here. I think I better leave it long for now. See what happens. If these start growing and developing, then I can prune it back further. I don't want it like growing in the shade and just have it die off. So. All right, it's time to start on the upper canopy now. All right, here I go. I'll start by reducing all these shoots back. These are kind of like the Chinese elm. They just grow absolutely straight. So you need to prune them back to the first or second set of leaves just to get the branches to have taper and movement. I'm using directional pruning to try and guide where the new branches come in. The more vigorous branches I'm pruning back hard to like the first set of leaves. The weaker branches I'm leaving longer to the second or third set of leaves to try and keep all the branches strong on the tree. Okay, I think we got the front roughly pruned up. I'll rotate it around now. I can start pruning up the back here. I'm keeping in mind my sort of umbrella-shaped canopy. And so far I'm not removing any branches. I'm just pruning it back. Then I'll step back and have a look at the tree and decide if I need to remove branches. Kind of look for crossing branches. Or I have too many branches going in one area, I can thin it. Making sure every branch gets light when viewed from above. All right, I'll rotate it back to the front now. While I'm waiting for the chainsaw to finish, I'll show you a European buckthorn that's in the ground here growing beside the house, and we've been trying to kill it off, and it's been very hard. We've stripped all the branches, cut the top off, and you can see all the new shoots that come out on the old wood, like right off the trunks here. And this is being stripped of all its branches 3 times this year. You just rip them all off. This European buckthorn is a very invasive species, so if you see them, it's best to kill them off or grow them as a bonsai. And if you grow them as a bonsai, you shouldn't let them get the berries on them because the birds could spread them and there'll be more of this buckthorn around, so keep that in mind. Here is a look at the tree after I pruned it, and this is just kind of a rough pruning. I could go in and start more branch selection up top, but I'm going to stop here.
I don't want to weaken the tree too much. I'll just leave it as it is and see how it responds to this pruning. Hopefully, you know, I get more branching and it starts filling in more. But I think it's a really beautiful tree. I think that trunk is just outstanding. It's a real beautiful tree. And it's a very old tree. It's been developed for a lot of years as a bonsai. The person who had it just gave up on it because branches kept dying and So I took it over, and I'm hoping, you know, I can keep it healthy, strong, and develop it into something really, really special. Let's fly in now and have a look at some of the details on the tree. Let's start down at the root base here. So I did a lot of root work to get this nice flared root base. The roots aren't exposed, they're kind of covered in moss at the moment, but they're there. And it's got beautiful bark on it. It's just wonderful looking old bark. As we come up past that lowest branch, you can see the deadwood strip on the trunk here, which is also very cool. Here's my branches I removed. I just kind of broke them off, and I think they're looking quite nice too. Got a bit of deadwood up here. There's a dead branch at the back of the crown, which is fine because I have it dividing into two here, two strong branch leaders or tree leaders. And the canopy is not bad. Yeah, so that's some of the features of the tree. I think it's looking really, really nice. Definitely my largest tree in my collection. Before I put the tree back on the bench, I'll give it a good watering. These buckthorn like moist soil, nice cool moist soil. They tend to grow in wet areas of the forest. And I'll add some fertilizer to my water, and then it'll go back on the bench. I've got a bucket of rainwater, and to that I add a spoon of 20-20-20 Miracle Grow fertilizer. So I'll show you my spoonful there. I add that to the water. And I stir it up. Then I use that in my watering can. Now I can water the tree, so here I go. Okay, that should be good. I'll leave the tree on the bench here. It gets good sun. I'll keep my eyes to see if I'm developing new branches from this latest pruning, and I'll keep my eyes on it, making sure there's no aphids attacking it or anything. Kind of baby it until it starts growing once again. In the greenhouse here, I've returned all my mini bonsai to their tray of sand. Keep them well hydrated. Now, someone in the comments asked me, do I have a drainage hole in this tray of sand? And yes, I do. The tray actually has a crack in the middle of it, so water does drain out. So it stays moist, but it doesn't fill up with water and stay too wet.
My European Buckthorn is what I'd call a super bonsai. They're like supercars. They're fun to look at, but they're totally impractical. They're big, heavy. To get it to a bonsai show, I would have to lay it down in the back of the matrix and get two people to lift it out of the car. I would still have to get a bonsai stand for it. I have to replant it with the new front facing the front of the pot. There's a lot of work to do on the tree also. It will be really interesting to see how it responds to this pruning. Hopefully it responds in a good way. I was happy to get it pruned up today. I think it's looking good. And that is all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me. in the bonsai zone.